Imagine this: you meet a woman you're drawn to. She laughs at your jokes. She leans in close. Her eyes linger on you longer than they should. It feels electric, like you're finally being seen. But then, slowly, something shifts. She starts ignoring your texts for hours, sometimes days. She makes subtle comments that cut into your confidence, then pulls back with a smile like nothing happened. And you, desperate not to lose the connection, start chasing harder. You write longer messages. You soften your opinions. You let things slide that once would have bothered you. And suddenly, without realizing it, you've crossed a line. You've traded your boundaries for approval. That's the moment you lost her respect. Here's the brutal truth: women aren't attracted to the man who bends. They're drawn to the man who resists. Not in some toxic, macho way, but in the unshakable edge of a man who knows where his line is and refuses to let anyone cross it. That's the real bad boy energy. It's not about leather jackets or motorcycles or brooding stares. It's about boundaries. A man who can look a woman in the eye, smile, and calmly say, "No, that doesn't work for me." That's the man she can't stop thinking about. You've probably seen it play out. The guy who does everything for her, answers instantly, rearranges his life to fit hers. He ends up ignored, ghosted, or strung along. Meanwhile, the man who doesn't hesitate to walk away when she tests him, that's the one she chases. Because boundaries are not rejection, they're proof of value. They silently say, "I am not afraid to lose you, because I will never lose myself." Now, let's get tactical. The first trap most men fall into is over-texting. She pulls back, and instead of holding the line, you flood her phone. Every unanswered message is you bleeding value. If she doesn't respond, don't double down, stop. Match her energy, or better yet, undercut it. If she takes 6 hours to respond, you wait 8. Not to play childish games, but to recenter yourself. Indifference is power. The man who can sit in silence without panicking is the man who owns the frame. Another manipulation you'll face is withdrawal. She'll withhold attention, affection, or words to see if you'll crumble. Most men do. They apologize for things they didn't even do, just to get her warmth back. That's weakness. The way through is simple: don't chase absence. When she pulls back, you don't run forward. You lean back further. You don't fill the silence. You let it sit. She'll either come back on her own or reveal she was never really invested. Either way, you win. But here's the cost of not learning this. You'll bleed yourself dry in relationships. Always giving, always adjusting, always shrinking until there's nothing left of you. And women feel it. They don't respect the man who dissolves into their moods. They crave the man who anchors them, the one who doesn't bend just because she stomps her foot or withholds a kiss. Every time you enforce a boundary, you send her a clear signal. My world doesn't revolve around you. You can be in it, but you will never control it. That's the edge. That's the fire she can't put out. And this is where the shift happens. You start realizing that boundaries aren't walls to keep women out. They're gates that protect your worth. You stop apologizing for having standards. You stop explaining yourself endlessly when you say no. You stop fearing her disappointment. And the more you live like this, the more magnetic you become. Because women can sense it, the quiet confidence of a man who doesn't need them. He chooses them, and he can just as easily unchoose them. So let me ask you, have you ever recognized yourself in this exact situation, chasing harder the moment she pulled away? Which one of these toxic behaviors have you faced before over-texting, over-explaining, or apologizing too much? And what's the hardest part for you, setting the boundary, or holding it when she tests you? You know the image that never leaves a man's mind, sitting at the edge of your bed, staring at your phone, waiting for her reply that never comes. You told yourself not to text again, but the silence feels like suffocation, so you break. You send one more message, then another. Each one chips away at the respect she once had for you. She doesn't even have to say a word, your desperation speaks louder than anything. And later, when she finally answers with something short and cold, you feel both relief and shame. That's the cycle, her withdrawal, your overinvestment, and the steady erosion of your edge. This is the hidden trap women test men not because they hate them, but because they need to feel a man's strength. Boundaries are where they measure that strength. When she ignores you, when she gets moody without reason, when she throws a little jab to see if you'll fold, these aren't random accidents. They are unconscious checks. And every time you let them slide, every time you bend, you teach her one thing: your boundaries don't exist. And once she knows that, attraction dies. Respect vanishes. You become safe, predictable, disposable. The man who holds his ground, though he feels dangerous in the best way, not because he yells or intimidates, but because he is untouchable emotionally. Picture this: she sends a passive-aggressive text. Instead of defending yourself with long explanations, you give a calm one-liner or nothing at all. You don't justify, you don't plead, you don't let her mood control your mood. That indifference unsettles her and draws her closer. Why? Because real strength in a man is the ability to remain still while the storm rages around him. Most men can't do that. They react. You must not. Here's the tactical shift: when she withholds, you withhold more. When she tests, you don't explain, you demonstrate. If she throws out a half-hearted insult like, "You're just like all the other guys," instead of defending yourself, you shrug and change the subject. Or you simply say, "Believe what you want." That response shows you're unshaken, and suddenly, the control she thought she had evaporates. She realizes she can't move you. And ironically, that's when she starts chasing, because women don't fall for the man they can manipulate. They fall for the man who resists manipulation. Think about the bad boy archetype. Why do women go crazy over him even though he treats them with less priority? It's not because he's cruel. It's because his boundaries are sharp. He doesn't tolerate disrespect. He doesn't beg for attention. If she pushes, he pushes back harder or he walks away. His edge is not in his attitude, it's in his refusal to be owned. And that refusal is intoxicating to women who are used to men handing over their dignity for scraps of affection. But let's get real, living this way is not easy. It means letting her sit in her own silence when she's pulling games. It means being okay with the possibility that she might not come back. It means valuing your self-respect above her temporary approval. That's the true test of a man. Can you hold the line when it costs you her smile, her warmth, her presence? Most men fail here. They think keeping her happy is the same as keeping her. It's not. The man who sacrifices his edge to keep her close always loses her anyway. The man who holds his edge, even if it risks losing her, is the one she clings to. The cost of weakness is not just losing women, it's losing yourself. You become a shell, built around her moods and her whims. You don't speak your mind because you fear she'll leave. You don't live your truth because you're addicted to her approval. And eventually, you don't even recognize the man in the mirror. That's not love. That's enslavement. And here's the paradox: the moment you stop caring whether she stays or goes, the moment you enforce your standards without apology, that's when she feels most drawn to you. That's the edge that separates men who get respect from men who get ignored. So ask yourself, when was the last time you gave in just to avoid an argument? Have you ever noticed how every time you bent, Her attraction dropped. And if you're honest, what's harder for you, saying no or staying silent after you've said it? There's a moment every man remembers, that split second when he knows he should say no, but the word dies in his throat. Maybe she asked you to cancel plans with your friends because she wanted attention. Maybe she dismissed something important to you with a smirk, and instead of calling it out, you laughed along to keep the peace. That's the moment you surrendered your edge. You thought you were buying harmony, but what you really bought was her quiet contempt, because deep down, women don't respect the man who hides his truth. They crave the man who stands firm in it. You see, boundaries aren't about control. They're about clarity. They tell the world and her where you end and where you begin. Without them, you become water, shapeless, formless, poured into whatever container she sets in front of you. And while it feels safe at first, it quickly turns stale. Women don't fall in love with water. They fall in love with fire. Fire has edges. Fire demands respect. Fire doesn't apologize for burning. So what does this look like in practice? Let's say she flirts with another guy in front of you just to provoke a reaction. Most men either explode in jealousy or bite their tongue while resentment festers. The man with boundaries does neither. He calmly pulls back. He doesn't argue. He doesn't sulk. He simply disengages. His body language says, "That's not the kind of woman I stay close to." She will notice. And the silence of your withdrawal will echo louder than any angry words. That's not punishment, that's self-respect. If she values you, she will correct her behavior. If she doesn't, you just uncovered who she really is. Either way, you win. Another scenario, she criticizes you in public with a sharp jab. The weak man laughs it off nervously. The defensive man bites back with anger. But the man with boundaries, he looks her in the eye and calmly says, "Don't talk to me like that." Simple, direct, no drama. The tone matters here, calm, grounded, unshaken. That line draws a wall she cannot cross again. And whether she rolls her eyes in the moment or not, trust me, she feels it. That edge is what separates you from every man who lets her get away with disrespect. Now let's talk about the internal battle. Enforcing boundaries will trigger fear in you, fear that she'll walk away, fear that she'll call you controlling or cold, fear that you'll lose her affection. And yes, sometimes you will. But here's the paradox: the women worth keeping are the ones who respect the man who risks losing them. Every time you hold your line, you filter out the ones who only wanted a doormat. And though it stings at first, in the long run, you gain everything: respect, desire, and self-possession. The cost of keeping the wrong woman is always higher than the cost of losing her. This isn't about being stubborn for the sake of ego. It's about living in alignment with your values. If you say you value honesty, but you let her lie to you without consequence, you're betraying yourself. If you say you value loyalty, but you look the other way when she crosses that line, you're complicit in your own destruction. Boundaries force you to live your words. And when you live that way, you exude a calm strength that women can feel in their bones. They may test it, they may push against it, but they can't ignore it. Here's the tactical key: boundaries aren't set with speeches, they're set with actions. Stop over-explaining yourself. Stop writing paragraphs to justify why you're upset. A single calm statement followed by consistent behavior says more than 1,000 words. If she cancels on you last minute, don't argue. Just don't offer her the same priority next time. If she plays games, you don't chase. You step back. Your silence is the enforcement. Your indifference is the boundary. And that's what keeps you untouchable. So I'll ask you this: How many times have you swallowed your truth just to keep her close? When was the last time you felt the sting of losing respect because you stayed quiet when you should have spoken? And if you're honest with yourself, are you more afraid of losing her or of finally being seen as a man with unshakable lines? Picture this, you're sitting across from her at dinner. She's scrolling through her phone, laughing at messages that aren't yours. You feel that familiar sting, that quiet panic rising in your chest. Do you call her out? Do you crack a joke to get her attention back? Do you pretend not to care while you burn inside? This is where most men lose. They fold into themselves, hoping she'll notice their discomfort and correct herself. But she won't. Why? Because she's not testing your patience. She's testing your boundaries. And your silence tells her everything there aren't any. A man without boundaries is easy to keep, but impossible to respect. She may enjoy the convenience of your attention, your constant availability, your willingness to tolerate anything, but she will never crave you. Craving comes from tension, and tension comes from limits. It's the invisible line that says, I won't play this game. Without that line, you're forgettable. With it, you're unforgettable. Now here's the tactical truth. Boundaries aren't drawn in arguments. They're revealed in your response. If she's on her phone during dinner, you don't whine or complain. You calmly say, looks like you're busy. Let's do this another time. And stand up. No anger, no drama, just action. That one move will burn into her memory far deeper than any jealous outburst. Why? Because you just showed her that your time is valuable and you won't trade it for scraps of attention. That's not arrogance, that's self-respect. And this extends to every corner of dating. If she cancels on you last minute with a flimsy excuse, you don't chase her with a dozen rescheduling attempts. You pull back. You let her be the one to reach out next time. If she throws a tantrum to control you, you don't fight fire with fire. You step into silence. Silence is the ultimate boundary because it cannot be negotiated. It forces her to confront her own behavior without you lifting a finger. Most men fear silence. You must master it, because the man who is comfortable in silence owns the frame. But here's where men fail. They confuse boundaries with ultimatums. An ultimatum is a threat. If you don't do this, I'll leave. That reeks of insecurity. A boundary isn't announced. It's lived. You don't tell her you won't tolerate disrespect. You simply disengage when it happens. You don't tell her you won't chase, you just stop chasing. Boundaries are not declarations, they are behaviors. And the more consistent you are, the more she feels it. Let me be clear, enforcing boundaries isn't about punishing women. It's about protecting yourself. Too many men go soft because they fear being alone. They tolerate lies, manipulation, or disrespect because the thought of losing her is unbearable. But here's the harsh truth: every time you compromise your standards to keep her, you're already alone. You've abandoned yourself. And she knows it. She can sense the hollow man who fears solitude more than he fears disrespect. That man will never inspire loyalty. He will always inspire boredom. But the man who enforces his boundaries, even if it costs him her presence, that man is rare. That man is dangerous. Because he doesn't need her. He wants her, but he doesn't need her. And a man who doesn't need her is the man every woman secretly desires. He's unshakable, he's free, he's magnetic. That's the real bad boy edge, not cruelty, not arrogance, but the quiet power of a man who refuses to trade his soul for anyone's approval. Think back to your last relationship or date. How many times did you let something slide that ate away at you inside? How many times did you smile through disrespect because you didn't want to start a fight? And here's the hardest question: if you had enforced your boundaries from the start, would she have respected you more, or would she have left? The cruelest thing you'll ever realize is this: every time you broke your own boundary to keep her, you didn't save the relationship, you buried it. Slowly, quietly, piece by piece. And when she finally left, you told yourself it was because you weren't enough. But the truth, it was because you gave too much. You gave away the one thing women can't buy, can't fake, can't ignore a man's edge. Once it's gone, she loses the fire. Once you show you'll tolerate anything to keep her, she knows she already owns you, and ownership kills desire. The irony is brutal. You think you're being the good guy. You think patience, forgiveness, and endless flexibility will make her love you more. But love doesn't grow in endless giving. It grows in friction, in limits, in the spark that comes when two people know they can't walk all over each other. Boundaries are the oxygen of attraction. Without them, the flame dies. And she may never tell you this directly, but her behavior will scream it. The more you bend, the more she pulls away. The more you chase, the faster she runs. The more you tolerate, the less she respects you, until one day, you're left asking yourself how you became invisible to the very woman you poured yourself into. But this is where your power begins. The moment you decide that your standards matter more than her approval, everything changes. You stop waiting by the phone. You stop rewriting yourself just to please her. You stop apologizing for truths that don't need apology. Instead, you become the man who is willing to lose her rather than lose himself. That's the shift she feels. That's the energy she can't ignore. Because most men are terrified of being alone. But you're not afraid of her absence. You're afraid of betraying your own worth. And that fear makes you untouchable. Here's the tactical application the next time she withdraws affection. Don't scramble to win it back. Let her sit in the silence. Don't send the extra text. Don't beg for clarity. Match her distance with calm indifference. If she values you, she'll return. If she doesn't, she just revealed herself. Another scenario, she throws an emotional outburst to pressure you into agreement. Instead of defending yourself, instead of raising your voice, you stay calm and unmoved. You say, "I hear you, but that doesn't change my decision." No anger, no compromise, just firmness. That one line communicates volumes. You are not negotiable when it comes to your standards. And if she walks, let her, because the man who fears losing her will always lose himself. But the man who fears losing himself more than her, that's the man she fights to keep. That's the man she dreams about at night. The one who won't fold. The one she can't fully control. That's the man who keeps her on edge in the best way. This is the cost of becoming that man. You will lose some women. You'll watch them drift away because you refuse to bend. It will sting. But it's the sting of cleansing, not of failure. Each one that leaves is proof you filtered out someone unworthy of your strength. And the ones who stay, they stay with fire in their eyes. They stay with respect in their heart. They stay because your edge awakens something in them they can't feel with softer men. So hear this clearly. Boundaries don't push the right women away. They push the wrong women out. And in doing so, they magnetize the ones who crave strength, respect, and a man who refuses to sell himself short. That's why the real bad boy edge isn't about being reckless or cruel. It's about being untouchable when it matters most. So let me ask you, how many times in your life have you traded self-respect for temporary closeness? Can you remember the exact moment she started pulling away? Was it right after you broke your own boundary? And now, be honest. Do you fear losing her more than you fear losing yourself? She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.